I tried to learn, spent 3 months and gave up. Because in childhood I had never learned any instrument how to play, so I couldn't learn in that phase. And probably it's 100% true, but in that sense. Second part he's talking about the money that I'm quite old, right? So don't go by my hairs, they all are gray. It just died. We put the color there. So I started working with Professor Vinod Kumar in 2001. Started my journey with this species, which is house sparrow, and we all are aware of it. So while I was working, doing PhD, I got the opportunity to go to Max Planck, Germany. No, I don't want to impress by that way, but I want to tell the story of mine. And again, guess what? I've been asked there to work on the, not only bird, but the house sparrow. Then I finished my PhD. After that, I spent some time. Then I moved to US, doing for my postdoc. Again, guess what? I've been asked to work on the birds. Not only that, with the same species, house sparrow. So from PhD to postdoc, even in US, I was working with this species. Then I spent around 3 years there. Decided to come back to India and hunt for the job. That's what we call nowadays job hunting. Like lots of you might be also doing it, will get it. It takes time nowadays. Then, in between, once I returned from the US, I started working at Delhi University as a scientist, and guess what again? I was working with, no, you can't be right all the time. I was working with the bird, but I was working with a migratory species, but again I was stuck with the bird. Then in 2014, very late, December, I joined the Mizoram, and then slowly I started thinking what to do, how to manage these things. Because Guru showed lots of fancy data, which you can do in Europe and America. Here everything starts from the fund. Though it's centrally funded university, it funds your salary, it doesn't fund your research. So you have to go out, find your own fund. So, a couple of days back, during the evening session, Professor Mewasim was showing that how can you do the research without having the fund. And he can say, he's a very aged person, he's a very senior person, he thinks out of the box. I'm not smart, I can't think of the out of box, but he started thinking what to do. So I talked with some students, colleagues, what is freely available, where there is no investment. And they told that, okay, silkworm, fertilized eggs are freely distributed by the state to the farmers. So I said, very good, I can get it free. Then you want to raise them, what do you need? Mulberry leaves, freely available. So I got the free species and the free food and started working there without any fund, and we did some basic experiment, but that gave the satisfaction that okay, we can do something, and we published this thing. Then slowly things started rolling. I'm putting a lot of pictures here, and there is a reason. So in 2019, I got a student. She approached me, she's from the UP, I'm working in the Mizoram, she's a DST Inspire Fellow. She said, I want to work with you, but I have a condition. So I said, okay. She said, I want to work with the fish and the parasites of the fish. I said, okay, let's do this thing. We started working with the fish parasite. She has her own ideas. I had the chronobiology behind. Remember, I'm not the medical biology side. I learn little bit chronobiology. I do little bit chronobiology. So we started putting the chronobiological aspect there, and that's how I started working with the fish and fish parasite. Again, I got another student who was the MSc product of my own department. He said, sir, I want to work with you, but I will work with the frog. Very difficult situation. You work with frog, right? So that's how I encountered working with the frog. Then This is another species. If you look this one and the top one, they may look similar, they are not. The upper one is a house sparrow, which is available here. The lower one is the tree sparrow. The genus is same, passer species are different. Upper one is domesticus, the lower one is montanus. Sometime occasionally you may see it here, but it's basically grabbed or catched from somewhere. Here people call it as a pahadi gorilla. Not that the house sparrow, the gorilla which we used to see or which we are seeing. So being trained in this area, working with the bird, this was my first preference. So I wrote a project on this species, and the project was on the how this light at night affects their biological clock and the associated phenomena. Luckily I got it funded, and we did a lot of experiment there. All those project is over, papers are out, and they are, I believe, is in a good reputed journals. So you can see it there. Then I got another student who wants to work with the bird but not the same species. So we selected a non-photoperiodic species. We don't know much about this one. Then as you grow, the student who was working in the previous project, she said, I have done enough with this species. Now I want to do the more learning cognition related thing, impact of light, so on and so forth, how the neuronal composition changes, and so lots of things. So she started writing a project. She wrote a project, independent project, like Dr. Babita is CSRI, right? And PDF. So yeah, she after completing PhD, she got also the same fellowship, which is one of the prestigious fellowship from the DST. Hardly 15 persons in a 2-year time they get this fellowship. So we got this, my student, I didn't get it. She got that project, and now she's working in the Lucknow. But mostly she's there in the IDOL because we are maintaining this system. So we have a collaboration. Then at the end, what you need? Money. Where is the money? Money is working with the mammalian system. So I decided to switch on the rodent, and there was the another reason. That while working with the tree sparrow, we got interested that, okay, this part we have done here, circadian system. Now we want to address this circadian clock mediated cognitive learning memory and associated phenomena. You may address these things in the house, in the tree sparrow, but the better model is the rodent. So we wrote a project, we approached the funding agency, we were lucky enough to get the fund, and this project is going on. Then, again, I wanted more money. So I started again writing the project. One I wrote on the mice, and that's the only project where I don't do any chronobiology except the one term of their melatonin. So we decided to formulate a nanoparticle which is conjugated with the melatonin, and then we are going to do some cancer-related study. I don't know anything there, but I have a collaborators which I put it in the project, and they know about it. Then, as Gaurav said, seasonality is important. Seasonality is important. So what we did, you again want more money. So you say, okay, I'm very desperate for the money, right? So I wrote a project on that, and this time I selected the model Syrian hamster. This one and the mice project is funded from the ICMR. If you go to ICMR, ask you want to work on the bird, they won't give you the money. They will give you money if you are a mammalian system or the human. Then, meanwhile, I had another student who doesn't want to work at all. She wanted to work with the humans. So we started working ending up here with the humans studies, and this is the part of data which I was showing. This was also funded research from the ICMR. After writing the synopsis, we wrote a project, and we were lucky enough to get the funding. At the beginning, actually, I wanted you to talk about the learning cognitions and circadian system impairment, but boss asked, no, talk about the human data. So I said, okay, let me try to talk about the human data. So that's what I'm trying to do. So while I was wanted to talk about this cognition data because we thought it's very interesting. We have the halfway project done. We have some interesting results, and many of you are PhD student or once may have been the PhD student. So my PhD student who is working on this project is very enthusiastic. He did analysis data and brought it to me like this. That's how we see our data. We submitted, we got the response from the reviewer. So it's kind of disheartening for the research scholar. We have been in this space, so I said, okay, no problem, you address the questions, what the reviewer raised. And we will submit to another journal, slightly lower. Now Mercedes to Ford, right? So right now paper is here. I'm not hoping it will be traced here. If it is there, probably I have to go to Maruti, maybe auto. I don't want to go to bicycle, right? But that's how the research is, right? In India, it's important to be publishing because you do science for fun, but if you keep doing funning, you don't get fun, right? So Gaurav did a lot of things in Europe by fun. We don't have much fun option here. Anyway, so that was funny part. So these are the funding agency from which I got the fund and completed the project. This is the scenario which is existing or ongoing funding situation. So because during the tea break, don't bother, I will finish on time, half an hour, right? Because I will rush up the data part, which is anyway going to bore you. So I was talking to Dr. Sandeep Panay, he works in IIT, right? So I asked, what is the in-house funding there? He said, well, it's not good. When you join, you get 25 lakh rupees. We don't get 25 rupees. Then, pediatric daytime sleepiness scale. Again, if you do, the daytime sleepiness is higher in the evening time. And they are bound with the time schedule. They go to sleep late, but they have to wake up early. And if they are going to wake up early, the sleep is consolidating by all previous lectures. Now it's very easy for me, I don't have to explain. And as a result, their daytime sleepiness is higher in comparison to morning type and neither type participants. Same goes to Epworth sleepiness scale. Data is consistently going that the evening type persons are having the poor Epworth sleepiness scale too. Then Casque, Cleveland Adolescent Sleep Quality Index. Again, it's a talk about the sleep quality, and you see that the sleep quality is poor in the evening type participants comparison to morning and neither type of participants. We also studied depression level by the questionnaire, not by the sampling, right? You can't do the sampling in the uncontrolled environment, but this questionnaire also clearly indicates that the depression scale is also higher in the evening time of the participants. So it means there are chronotype dependent effects on these parameters. Then this is the overall actigraphy data which we did, and again I won't go in detail in all this actigraphy data, but if you see the first graph, bed timing, expected delayed bed timing when they go to bed the evening time, and as a response there is also delay in the get up time, right? Then the other parameters, time in bed, total sleep time, sleep onset latency, they all are showing the differences in the 3 to time. Couple of questions were there about the sleep efficiency, whether there is a difference in the sleep efficiency based on chronotype, and Dr. Santa Rajaratnam already explained, they didn't see the efficiency. My data also says the same thing. We don't, trend is there, statistical difference is not there. And remember, this is 900 participants. It's not 4 or 5 animals, it's 900 participants, quite large number of the sample is there, and we don't see the efficiency differently. So, based on that, as I said, I will rush up the data part, but I can take the questions, try to answer if I can, later on if you have any query. Right, so 7 to 8 hours sleep duration was highest, evening time had poor sleep quality, so on and so forth. Then we started analyzing the same data in a different way. Is there a gender bias differences or gender dependent differences in these parameters? Again, if you decipher this data into chronotype, you don't see the huge difference in the chronotype, gender dependent chronotype differences. More or less percentage is more or less similar. But if you do the PSQI analysis, you will be seeing that some parameters are different, like the PSQI scale is higher in male than female. Then some other parameters are also differences. So different is there, showing that like the sleep latency and the wake up time. So there are differences in the gender bias, gender dependent differences in these parameters. VDSS analysis again shows there are gender based differences. So the Epworth sleepiness scale and CAS-Q and the depression level. Depression is, so for us what we found is that female participants were showing higher depression level compared to male here. Then again we analyzed this data, relooked the data, because the first I showed you all 900 participants data. Now this has been deciphered between male and female, and don't need to go, lots of slides are there. Message is important, what exact data is saying is not there. There are gender bias, gender dependent difference, not bias, gender dependent differences are there in this thing. So again, this part of the story says that, okay, if you look the data gender wise, there are differences, so you can't generalize the male and female as in a one general term, in terms of the responses. Then you already are aware of the social jet lag terminology. So we utilize this thing, compare the weekdays versus weekend. In Mizoram, we have a 2 days weekend, 2 days weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Both are completely off. Offices, including schools. So Saturday is off, Sunday is church day. So everyone has to go to church. Not has to, they go to the church, because it's a Christian dominated city. Around more than 90% population is Christian, right? So they go to the church. Somehow the students who work with me, they stopped going. I don't go to temple anyway. It's not that I believe in that thing, but I hardly go in there, and they also stopped going. I don't stop anyone. That it's your believing, you have to do what you want to do, right? Okay. Then, so here we again categorize the data based on actigraphy. So we have a double control here. You have a questionnaire which student fills, then you have a actigraphy put them, which also needs to be important, because sometimes you may say whether they are filling the questionnaire rightly or not, but we believe that it's a huge data, there is no biasness, there is all confidentiality. They know that whatever they are filling, their teachers are not going to be able to have this access, neither their parents are going to have the access. So they were free to totally to fill, and I believe they are more honest than us. So how do I believe that? Okay, so we again categorize the data, first overall data, the actigraphy wise, then gender wise, and again we see that important point is there are differences between male and female in a different parameters. Again, the message is important. Each and every data is not important. That is for the publication, which is also half of part is stories published. If you are interested, we can share those data. Then we again further categorize this data on the basis of the chronotypes, and you see there are a chronotype dependent effects are also there, which you see lesser effect in the evening time because they are already suffering too much. So we don't see those differences in there. So from this part we summarize here that okay, bedtime and get up time was late during weekend, high sleep and sleep latency was observed in weekend. Okay. Then we tried to look this seasonal sleep variation. So we worked with the same student for over a year time, with the same student, so that we can have a multiple months data, and we selected the 4th month, March, June, September, December. By this time you already know that it's basically photoperiod dependent. You have equinox photoperiod, you have a long days or longest days during that particular month, and you have a shortest days in a particular month. So we decided to have that. And then again, no need to look each and every data. Important point is that these sleep patterns are also seasonally varying. Then we further relook those things in the chronotype basis. Again, you see the differences are also there in the chronotype basis, and in the morning type, neither type, and evening type. So seasonal sleep parameters are different there. So with this, we summarize this part of the story. I'm taking it quickly because message is important. As I said, data is not important, right? Then in 2021, we published this data, and we collaborated, I and then my lab, and then one lab from the Russia. We collaborated with each other. They were working on the Russian population, we were working on the Indian population, and all together, it's a huge data is there. Lots of participants are there, more than 1,000 participants from the Indian side, more than 2,000 participants from their side, because they have more universities, and I have only one university, Mizoram University in the whole state. So I had a limitation there in that data, but we did it. And overall message is that food addiction and weight in students with the high academic performance. So it means your kids are, if they are addicted to a particular food, it could also influence their academic performances. Chronotype dependent academic performances are well known, it's established. We did it, we also published it, that paper is out, I'm not showing that data here. Then after that story completed, we thought, okay, why not to study this food addiction, depression level, sleep quality among the school student, and then we compare it with the university student and the population which is working but not in a shift work. So more or less, they have a regime to follow on a daily basis, whether they have to go to school or they have to go to the colleges or their offices. Difference is the age group, and thus obviously adults are more free to do whatever they want to do. We analyze the data chronotype wise. So if you see here that overall trend is similar, neither type is dominating. But if you see here in the middle panel that among university students, the ratio of morning and evening time is more or less similar, which is not the case of the school student. Then we look the overall food addiction percentage. So among the school students, 15% school students were food addicted. Around 47% of the university students were food addicted, and around 27% of the working adults were food addicted. And then we classified chronotype wise. This is important here. So if you see here, in all three population, evening type of students are more food addicted. Whether it's a school student, whether it's a university student, whether it's a working adult, in this whole population, evening type students are more addicted for the food addiction, right? But if you see the university student, this morning type or neither type are also quite high compared to the other two. So then we also look the depression level. Seems like that this depression scale is higher in the case of the adults. Then we also that is the overall data of the all population, and then we did it into the chronotype wise. So if you see that even in morning type individuals, this working adults are having least depression level, and in the evening type we don't see the difference. It does not mean they don't have a depression. We already showed it here. In evening type, their depression is the highest, right? But within the evening types, the three types of the individuals, they are not showing the differences. Then we categorize more way. Again, not important message is that yes, these parameters are also differing in the three groups which we studied there. And then we have a morning type, in neither type, chronotype dependent effects are also there, right? So then we summarize this part of the story here, that okay, that neither type is dominated, which is well established, and then higher percentage of the food headaches was found among university students, followed by the working student, working adult and school students. We have a more analysis there. It's still going on, because we want to look at how this food addiction is actually playing the role there, right? So we have not correlated those data here. So at last here, actually it is not last. So I put my collaborators. So Dr. Mikhail from the Russia, we are still collaborating here in Lucknow. We have a collaborator in Lucknow, my old lab, Professor Salim Ali, with whom I'm working with the zebra finches story. As I said, I don't know anything about the parasitology and parasites, so I'm collaborating with another of my colleague who is happened to be my PhD batchmate, MSc batchmate, who is faculty here in Lucknow University, associate professor. He knows about the parasite. So we are collaborating with him for the parasite. As I said, I wrote an ICMR project which was sanctioned for the nanoparticle. In the whole of my life, I haven't seen the nanoparticle ever synthesized. So I'm collaborating with this Dr. Satish Pandey, who works in biotechnology. He's an MTech PhD, and he knows how to do the prepare this nanoparticle. Next to that, my departmental colleague, I don't know how to do the cancer. So cancer part is he is doing, nanoparticle work part is doing. Then you can ask what I'm doing. Wrote the grant. That's the only part I did it, and luckily we got it funded. Right. Then, okay, this photo disappeared here from here. Only the background is there, I don't. So, as I said earlier, I kind of lucky that I got a project from the DST Satyam scheme, because to run the lab you need the money. So sometimes you apply based on the call they have there. So they have the call on the yoga. So they want to do yoga. I said, okay, we'll do the yoga. So I collaborated with the sports department, assistant director sports department. We are lucky enough, and again, we got the good funding from there. So if I have to ask, just you guess, Gaurav knows that. For yoga, how much money do you expect? Conduct yoga and all those things, how much? We are doing to the other two. So then we also look the depression level. Seems like that this depression scale is higher in the case of the adults. Then we also, that is the overall data of the all population, and then we did it into the chronotype wise. So if you see that even in morning type individuals, this working adults are having least depression level. And in the evening type, we don't see the difference. It does not mean they don't have a depression. We already showed it here. In evening type, their depression is the highest, right? But within the evening types, the three types of the individuals, they are not showing the differences. Then we categorize more way. Again, not important message is that yes, these parameters are also differing in the three groups which we studied there. And then we have a morning type, in neither type, chronotype dependent effects are also there, right? So then we summarize this part of the story here, that okay, that neither type is dominated, which is well established, and then higher percentage of the food headaches was found among university students, followed by the working adult and school students. We have a more analysis there. It's still going on, because we want to look at how this food addiction is actually playing the role there, right? So we have not correlated those data here. So at last here, actually it is not last. So I put my collaborators. So Dr. Mikhail from the Russia, we are still collaborating here in Lucknow. We have a collaborator in Lucknow, my old lab, Professor Salim Ali, with whom I'm working with the zebra finches story. As I said, I don't know anything about the parasitology and parasites, so I'm collaborating with another of my colleague who is happened to be my PhD batchmate, MSc batchmate, who is faculty here in Lucknow University, associate professor. He knows about the parasite. So we are collaborating with him for the parasite. As I said, I wrote a ICMR project which was sanctioned for the nanoparticle. In the whole of my life, I haven't seen the nanoparticle ever synthesized. So I'm collaborating with this Dr. Satish Pandey, who works in biotechnology. He's an MTech PhD, and he knows how to do the prepare this nanoparticle. Next to that, my departmental colleague, I don't know how to do the cancer. So cancer part is he is doing, nanoparticle work part is doing. Then you can ask what I'm doing. Wrote the grant. That's the only part I did it, and luckily we got it funded. Right. Then, okay, this photo disappeared here from here. Only the background is there. I don't. So, as I said earlier, I kind of lucky that I got a project from the DST Satyam scheme, because to run the lab you need the money. So sometimes you apply based on the call they have there. So they have the call on the yoga. So they want to do yoga. I said, okay, we'll do the yoga. So I collaborated with the sports department, assistant director sports department. We are lucky enough, and again, we got the good funding from there. So if I have to ask, just you guess, Gaurav knows that. For yoga, how much money do you expect? Conduct yoga and all those things, how much? We are doing it for Professor More, who is not here, because the day he walked in, he said, oh gosh, so much traffic jam. And I remember Professor Kumar talking to one of the foreign faculty one time. When he complained about the traffic, he said, we don't drive here, we negotiate. Who will go first? So I remember that statement. Welcome to Mizoram. One whole side road is empty, no one is crossing the border line. And this is the statement which was put in there. UP police uses ISOL mode discipline to promote lane driving. Right. So it's about our civic sense, right? We just want to go early. We don't want to wait for someone else. So what will happen? The chaos will be created, right? So and this is not one selected picture. You can go on internet. You can see lots of pictures out there. And this is the last slide which I want to show. If you want to see the Mizoram, you all are invited. We are hosting a society conference in the first week of March under this same society, Indian society called Chronobiology. You all are welcome to visit the place. Thank you.